So, we're going to move on and add and introduce iPads. So we've spoken about people who are visual, auditory and kinesthetic. What was observed by some of the early NLP creators and developers was that people's eyes move when they're talking, and different people, when using different predicates, would have a system or a pattern when they're talking about certain things or accessing certain pieces of information. So we've made you aware that when a person's eyes go up, maybe they're accessing images or pictures. When their eyes go down, maybe they're accessing emotions or feelings, or they may be having some self-talk. But what I'm going to do now is explicitly explain iPads. So this is something that various organisations, when questioning certain individuals, would be aware of. And it's quite well documented on certain TV shows that this is a pattern. So I'm going to make it explicit. It doesn't necessarily work with everybody on this planet. You as NLP practitioners will benefit from being aware of it, and you as NLP practitioners will benefit from calibrating and checking it, not taking it that this is the gospel. So I'm going to make you aware of the large generalizations. You are then going to communicate with each other and calibrate the unconscious movements of a person's eyes. So in your books, very good Misha, what, page 25, you will see some faces, a little bit like this. So for this, it would be good for me to have a couple of individuals just to sit here. What I will do is ask you certain questions, and we will observe your eyes. Now, there is a confounding variable, that is, when you sat here, you know that we're watching your eyes.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay? So we are aware of that. So part of my job will be to almost get you off guard a little bit. Not to trick you, but just to help you access something unconsciously. I do get people on courses who think, oh, I'll volunteer, and they'll do this. I'll ask them lots of questions and they'll go, yep, nope, yep, yep. And it's almost like, yeah, come on. My eyes are moving nowhere. That's great. I don't care. But there will be things. People in the military have got a very fixed gaze, because in certain contexts in the military, and I'm working with some people in the military or ex-military, part of their role in their work is to not tap into their emotions at certain times and just to do X, Y or Z, because they may be in life-threatening situations, or their colleagues may be. So they would have almost a button that's not being switched on, and you can always tell in a training people who've been in the services or in the police, because their eyes are quite fixed and they're not as fluid as some other people's movements. Again, it's a generalization. So I'd want two people up here. If you want to challenge, you can challenge, but my goal is just to engage you in a conversation so that we can observe eye movement, eye patterns. So who, okay? Anybody else? Well, so if you just sit there, Sifi, yeah?
Yes.
Sifi, okay. So Sifi. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
So where did you go for lunch?
I went to American Apparel and shopped.
Okay, so what did you buy?
Bought a pair of leggings.
Okay. So where were they when you saw them in the shop?
Where were they?
Yeah.
They were in. I just realised what I did. They were at the back of the shop.
Okay. So what is it you do for a living?
Me, I am a wellness coach.
Okay. And if you think about this time next year, what might you be doing?
Oh, I'm going to have lots of wellness coaches in a big company
Okay.
in Chelsea.
Do you know whereabouts in Chelsea?
Huh?
Whereabouts in Chelsea?
Yes, Ambient House. I can't pronounce it very well. The Horseshoe. The Horseshoe. I think
Okay.
that's what I'm going to be doing. It's a home business,
Yeah.
so it's travelling from home to home.
And do you live in London?
Huh? No, I've just moved out of Battersea.
Okay. And how many windows are in the front of your house? Okay. So what she just did there, again, her eyes have been very, very fixed. It is a.
Oh, not a little
You don't have to be sorry to me. So, again, we need to get to a certain level of rapport. I was looking for a question, a sentence that I could give that would get a natural reaction. So, if you ask a person, how many windows have you got in the front of your house or your flat, a person would have to remember. So, when she accessed that, her eyes went up and here. So this is visual recall. When I asked her about what she would do this time next year, we wouldn't imagine her to go into recall because those memories haven't been created yet. She would go somewhere else. Now, this is as we look at a person, and this is a model for what we call a normally organised person, meaning a right-handed person. I'm not saying you're normal, and I don't think you're organised, but so this is just a term that we use, a normally organised person, meaning right-handed, that's it. Now there are variations, but I'm going to go through this. So a normally organised person who's probably right-handed, their visual recall as you look at them will be over to your right, their left. So when I asked Sifi about how many windows in your house, she went over here, got like a little look, and came up with an answer. So what I'm going to look at now is getting her to operate in some of the other places. What would your house look like with all the windows smashed?
No, I don't want to think about that. It'd be not very nice.
So why would it not be very nice?
It's just really somebody's proper place.
Okay. So where did her eyes go then?
Down.
Okay. What word did she use? Wouldn't. What was the other word?
Not really
Nice.
Nice. But what is nice? Is it a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? word?
Kinesthetic.
Right. So your kinesthetics are down here. Yeah. Stick with the program, so your kinesthetics, your feelings are down here. So to some degree, she didn't want to make a picture, so she didn't come up to construct a picture. She came down here. So just because you ask a visual question doesn't necessarily mean that the person is going to access something visual. So this is all about a person's unconscious. So, have you got a favourite piece of music? Where did her eyes go?
Yeah.
Over to the left.
Visual.
They still look down there,
And then
To Sifi, how do you know where they went?
Oh, I know, I felt them. That's
Visual recall.
So they went, and again I'm generalising, they went over to the left, and if a person's eyes are around the midplane, this is where they would remember sounds that they've already heard, like the voice of a parent, the voice of a friend, a favourite piece of music. If they go down here, that area here is where a person has self-talk. meaning the voice in your head, where you have, anybody got a voice in their head where it tells you things? So sometimes if a person's depressed, they might be like saying something in their head and getting a feeling. So their eyes are like windscreen wipers down here. Okay, so we've explained recall. So did you get a favourite piece of music?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so she used the word think.
Oh, it's not good. Yes, it did.
Okay, so what did you just see then?
The actual vision I got,
Yes,
the score,
right.
the score.
Which school?
The score.
Oh, the score,
Yeah.
right. So I asked her an auditory question, but she saw
Score.
the score. So I want you to imagine the music, how it sounds. Can you do that in your head?
Yeah.
Okay, do that now. Can you hear it?
Score first.
Sort of, okay.
Yeah, no, so it's frustrating.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So can you imagine what it would sound like if it was played twice the speed? Just imagine that.
Yeah,
You can imagine that?
I think so.
Right. Where did her eyes go then? Very quickly. They're sort of hovering. They weren't really... Sometimes this is like a split second. If a person's eyes go over here,
They did go wrong.
I think they went right.
Is it quite unusual to construct
not really. All of this is quite natural. Some people, their job might entail that, so they would have a connection of doing that. So we've not got visual construct. So have you got any, are you going to any parties at Christmas?
Yes.
Okay. Which parties are you going to?
Uh,
Okay, now where did she go?
No.
Where did her eyes go?
Visual construct.
They went over to the right and they were sort of up here. So I'm going to ask her, what were you seeing when
Which
you
was
did
good.
that? Were you sort of seeing the venue or the people or what you might look like? What were you doing?
I think I went back actually to the part memory of parties that we've had.
Okay, but
Which
it's
is frustrating.
it's not frustrating. But now she's going somewhere else because she's looking down. If a person goes here, they would be accessing visual construct.
That's what I was doing. I was constructing.
Good. So you're not the class nutter.
No.
Okay. Steve and I will sign a certificate
Thanks.
that you are not. Okay. So what you're experiencing here is that there is a confounding variable. One of the things is to be as natural as possible with the person. So I've mapped out the generalizations where people's eyes will go and what that could mean in a right-handed person, normally organised, as you look at them. So here's, okay, fair enough. So did you buy them at lunchtime? Those? No. So when you were getting dressed this morning, what was the process that you went through to put on the clothes that you've got now?
The physical process.
Well, the physical, mental process. How did you choose those from your wardrobe or wherever they were? Okay, so where did she go?
Visual recall.
Visual recall, yeah. Right. So were you remembering what was happening or where?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got a partner?
Yes.
Okay. And if you were to think about your partner now, what?
He's lovely.
So maybe not a class number, right? Okay, so how lovely is it?
Really lovely.
Yeah. And how do you feel when you're with him?
Visual recall.
So what she just did, I'm guessing now, she got a picture of him
My husband.
and then she came down to her feelings. When I asked the question, it was almost like she was struggling with her body and she had to move and kick her legs. at some level, everything's connected. So this is useful to us to calibrate. When we ask a person a question about the past, where do their eyes go?
Recall.
When we ask a person a question about the future, where do their eyes go? What is the pattern? There is a certain pattern and a sequence to how people operate this system. Now, what you're going to do is communicate with each other and look at how a person's eyes operate. If you ask them a question about sound, do they get a picture and then go into the sounds, or do they go into the feelings? It's quite fluid, but I just want you to understand that people's eyes do have a certain sequence. So how many coaches have we got in the room? People who, okay, so when you're coaching, where do you think that you would be interested in knowing where a person's eyes
Down.
go?
When it goes down, when they drop.
No, right.
Construct.
Like,
Within the contract area.
exactly. So if you're coaching somebody, I'd be very interested, okay, tell me what you're going to be doing this time next year. If they cannot go over there and make pictures and images of them in the future, to some degree you know you've got some coaching to do. People who are depressed, generally speaking, would really focus here all the time, even when you're talking about the future, because it's like they don't have a future. All they can do is remember things from the past. I'm working with some soldiers, ex-soldiers, and they've got post-traumatic stress disorder. They're very much over here. Sometimes they'll have a fixed stare because they don't want to access things here. One of the things they find difficult is building a future visually with them being okay. So in whatever context you're operating, knowing about the eyes, it can give you clues. If you're selling a product or a service, can the person move into construct, imagining themselves with your product or service? Because if they cannot, you know that you've got a little bit more work to do. Does that make sense? So a person generally would have what we call a lead system. That's the system that they open with. So if you ask them a question about feelings, they may get a picture and then access their feelings. I've observed people in this room who have got a visual lead system throughout the day when I'm telling stories or when I'm talking to them. They would access visually. So Patricia, when we had a dialogue this morning, everything that Patricia did at that time, she accessed visually and then gave me an answer. So that was the lead system. The primary system is the system that a person communicates in using the words, which we did before lunch, visual, auditory or kinesthetic words. That would be their primary system. So we know the system that a person's in by the use of their words, visual, auditory, kinesthetic or AD. So with the eye patterns, I want you to calibrate to a person. What questions can you ask them where their eyes naturally would move? There is a confounding variable, so ask them questions where they would have to go somewhere to get an answer. Does that make sense? Okay? So,
What about
thank you.
when someone is lying?
Okay, so just come here.
Sorry.
So what's your name?
Not
No,
remember?
forgot. Nova. Right. Okay, Nova. So your name's Nova,
Yes.
yeah? So where do you live?
Hammersmith.
And what would your house look like if all the windows are smashed?
Not nice.
Okay, so where does she go?
Contract.
Visual construct. So do you drive a car?
Yes.
What car is it?
I drive, but I don't drive now. I
Okay.
don't have a car.
Okay. So I want you to say 3 things to me in the group. 2 of them are true, but 1 of them is a lie. Okay? So you're going to make 3 statements. 2 of them are going to be true, but 1 of them is going to be a lie. Okay? So you're going to say 3 things, and then we're going to ask her some questions just to see if we can tell if you're lying. Okay? Have you got 3 things that you can...
Yeah. I've met the Dalai Lama when I was in India.
Okay.
I'm 38, and I've done bungee jumping.
Okay. So there's 3 different things. So what question could we ask where we could calibrate if she's lying? So there's bungee jumping, the Dalai Lama, and you're 38. So
Where
what-
have you been in India? I've been all over the north actually. So I went to Delhi, then I traveled across India, and I came back to Rajasthan
And where did you did the job?
and New Zealand.
Okay, so just about to jump on the bungee jump, what did you see?
The water, it was like from a bridge.
Okay.
Scary.
Okay. So what was the Dalai Lama wearing when you saw the Dalai Lama?
Like his big purple dress,
Yeah.
tosh.
And are you really 38?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we think?
It's the age. It's the age.
Okay. So what other questions, we'll ask her 3 questions and then
How
we'll
did
take a guess. What
How
question
did
can
it
we
feel?
ask?
I got a
What
question.
year were you born?
No.
I was born in the 70s.
What?
The
78.
But
70s.
what year exactly?
What year?
Okay,
Okay.
another question.
I got a question. Which one is your favorite Star Wars movie?
My favorite Star Wars movie. Actually, it's like the one with Ewan McGregor. So the recent ones.
What would that be to do with the Dalai
Because
Lama?
that's no, because that's the age and it's generational, and you can only know that if you come from the 70s.
Yeah.
So that's not
When
direct.
did you meet
It's,
Dalai Lama?
It was in 2004.
Okay, right, so let's take a vote.
let's say no Star
Who
Wars.
says the Dalai Lama is alive? Okay, who says the...
Maybe a little bit.
Little bit.
Right, Charles, here I am. Do you take this one to be a love word wife? Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look.
Okay, right.
I think she said almost met the Dalai Lama. She didn't say that you met him. Did you meet him?
Yeah. I went to what's the city called? It was a long time ago.
I thought you said you almost met him.
No.
She said,
Okay, right, so that's, we've done the Dalai
I saw
Lama. You
him.
think it's the Dalai Lama?
Oh, you saw him? Did you interact with him?
so yeah.
Okay, I
Well, like it's all about interaction.
Right, so hands up for the Dalai Lama as the lie. Hands up for the bungee jump as a lie.
Got an art plan for that.
Hands up for 38 for a lie. Whoa, okay. So which one was the lie?
Dalai Lama.
Okay, so in answer to your question, well, you've answered your own question.
I like very well.
Well, the point is, we were in a different situation here because it was almost like she was wanting to lie.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, when you're talking to another person, they might not know that you're calibrating to them. Now, there are certain ways that you can stack the deck, but I wanted to give you an experience everybody thinks that, you know, you do NLP so that you can read people's minds and it's like voodoo. No, it's not. But when you've got the skills, there's certain questions that you can ask that would evoke natural responses where you can make accurate assumptions, but always be aware that they are assumptions made by you. If you're in a coaching context, it's okay. It doesn't matter if the person is lying or not, because they're only lying to themselves. It's not your job to find out if a person is lying or not. It's your job to help a person not lie to themselves. That's what it's all about.
So if someone's lying, where do they look?
It if you say to a child, have you done your homework, and they go into a visual construct, it doesn't mean to say they haven't done their homework, but you might want to ask another question. There would be other questions. What I usually do is ask an emotionally packed question. So if she's done a bungee jump, there would be some emotion there. So I would say, just before you're about to jump, what could you see? Where did her eyes go? They went into her feelings. So I sort of thought, actually, she probably did the bungee jump. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's context specific, and there is no set rule because a person's fluid. And if a person's lying, really it's not your job to find that out. But in a coaching context, I would be interested in, can they make pictures up of the future? I wouldn't make them aware that they're moving their eyes here or there, but I certainly would know that there's maybe other questions that I can ask that would benefit them. Thanks. So what I'd like you to do is work with somebody else, know which question you're going to ask, and then ask the question and tell the person maybe write down what you thought they did, and then ask them to tell you what they did and compare. So if I said, who's your favourite pop group or act, singer? If their eyes go up, down, you might say, what did you do? They might say, well, I just saw Barbara Streisand and sort of remembered my wedding. So nothing against Barbara Streisand, she has nothing to do with my wedding. So you're just observing and comparing. Ask them a series of questions and notice where their eyes go first. That would be their lead system. Ask them a visual question, an auditory question, a kinesthetic. Where do their eyes first go? That's their lead system. And then, where do they go after that? So again, we're playing. There is a confounding variable. It's a different environment. So the trick is to get them off guard. You have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about this normally organised person being right-handed. So what does that mean? A left-handed person is the reverse, or?
That it can mean that.
Right.
But they found that, and I don't know why they call right-handed people normally organised. It's just a term that they used, so I'm sharing that term with you. A left-handed person, they found some of the systems were reversed. People in the Basque country, northern Spain, tend to be reversed as well for some unknown reason. So the point is, it's up to you to calibrate to your client. And it's all about what they're doing in real time. And you make your assumptions based on that. So I'm just introducing eye patterns. There's certain YouTube clips of certain politicians who have given very important speeches, and when they've been asked questions, their eyes have been going in places that would concur with some ambiguities or untruths. So this is just something that is part of NLP practitioner. It is very useful, and there are certain things in the exercises that we're going to do where you will benefit from knowing and being aware of iPads. Misha?
Is there a difference in countries where they read from right to left, or they read from right to left?
That's a great question. I'm not aware that there is. There may be. I don't know.
Different sides of your brain.
Yeah. But generally speaking, when a person's eyes are up, they will be processing visually. When they're down, to some degree, they will be.
Well, if you do, let's say, you think about two things at the same time, you're processing double.
We're going to come on to that because that's how a phobia works, and that's what we call a synesthesia, where two channels are open at the same time.
Let's say very simple example. I'm not a native English speaker, and any type of answer that I need to give, I'm thinking about my answer, but at the same time, I'm trying to formulate the sentence.
Okay, do you just want to come up here? Is it Violetta? Okay, so we've got like a natural context now. I'm going to have a dialect with Violetta. We're just going to observe.
Might be misleading.
So her lead system was visual. When she was asking questions, and so ask me the question again. What?
Same question.
What's the question?
What was the question?
So where did her eyes go then?
Yeah, why? Yeah, let's say I'm trying to process two types of, well, information, not
Okay.
information, but I'm doing two
Like
jobs
what?
at the same time.
Like what?
Formulating the sentence in English
Okay.
and thinking about what I have to say.
Okay. So what might a sentence be? Where are her eyes going? She's down here. She's even gesticulating over here with her hands. So we know that whatever she's talking about lives over here. So if she's got a problem with whatever this is, or she wants change, we know that maybe over there could be different. But everything seems to be over here. Does that make sense?
Okay, so, yeah, so it means it doesn't really matter.
How did you get here this morning?
By train.
Okay. How are you getting home tonight?
By train as well.
Okay. Have you got a partner?
No.
Okay. What would your partner look like if you had one?
I think they don't exist.
So, same question. What would your partner look like if you had one? Very good. Right. So, where did she go? Straight over here. Right. So, what does that mean?
Doesn't
It
make
doesn't exist.
Now, on one level, what else did she do? When I said, what would he look like, or what would they look like if they existed? What did she do? She went like that. And she actually closed her eyes. Because at some stage, unconsciously, that part of her brain might have just thought, right, okay, we are not having another partner, or we don't, for whatever reason. Because it's like, she didn't want to go there, she didn't access that. Does that make sense? So then when we actually forced the issue, she did go up there like that. So to some degree her unconscious has already done something or not done something in relation to a partner. Does that make sense? So we saw that. What you will learn on this course is when a person's talking like this, it means something. That they're actually putting what we call a submodality here. And you will find, if you observe people in restaurants, they are giving so much information that is unconscious, that to you as a practitioner of NLP, that's really where you earn your spurs, that's really where you can communicate change. So, we're just on the eyes. Look into my eyes, not around the eyes, just in my eyes. Very good, back in the room. So,
directly in your eyes.
say that again?
What if people look at you directly in their eyes? You know, is it there will always will be emotion anyway?
Yeah, well, when somebody's looking directly in your eyes, it means that they fancy you.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about that. I think that's page 42. So if anybody's looking directly in your eyes, I don't know what that means. They're just looking directly into your eyes. But if their stare is fixed, it would mean that they're in a state that they don't want to come out of, or they're in a state that they can't come out of.
That's more than what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Often I would look away from trying to process the question, so what if that's...
Okay, do you want to come out here? So I'm really keen to give you real examples of real dialogue. So just want to...
You might give me like questions I understand, but like usually if they ask me a question I don't understand that.
Okay, so what question don't you understand?
You know, a question that has words that I don't get.
Like what?
I don't know the words that I don't know.
Okay. So I will ask you a question. Somebody ask a question that would directorize someone. Could be a visual, auditory, kinesthetic, could be about the past, could be about the future. So I'm not going to ask a question. Somebody can ask a question and we'll just see.
What's your favourite colour?
I knew that question.
So what's her... Okay, where did you go on holiday this year? Where's her lead system? Visual. So we've asked her 2 questions, and then 2 times to get information, her eyes have gone up. So chances are she's got a lead system.
Do you think you're going to become a good NLP practitioner?
I have no idea. After time, I hope so.
Right. So where did she go? Every time something comes in her lead system, it's like she's got to get some visual picture. If you're going to sell this person anything, you need to build a picture first. You need to show them a brochure. Can you imagine what you look like when you are an NLP practitioner? Can you imagine what things are going to be like? So using visual words is going to help her access, because that's where she goes first. We don't know what her primary system is yet, because we've not opened the dialogue. That would be the words. So again, I'm keen to give you natural examples where they're not stacked or tricked, because it's up to you to make the assumptions or calibrate in each individual person. So that's what I want you to do now with somebody else. Thank you.